Hey everybody, Matt Happy Harvest CT here. So, we are going over something near and dear today, which is composting. If you're not composting, start composting. Alright, it is easy to do a few different methods, so we're going to go over the easiest first, then we'll go to the hardest. Alright, easiest is what's called a hot compost. I'm just going to explain this. If you live in New England, these things called leaves fall off your trees every year. Normally, in my old town, I swept them all to the road, and the town came, picked them up, and brought them to a composting facility, and I don't know what they ever did with that compost. I have landscapers bring leaves to my house, all right, and I have like a mini composting facility back here. So all it is leaves, grass clippings, as long as they weren't treated with fertilizer, and some mulch. Now, we don't put kitchen scraps in our hot compost. You can, we don't. You could put manure in there too if it's like horse or cow, dairy, or you could do that if you want. There's some big time composters who do that. And again, take it or leave it. My advice to you is just like as basic as it can be, because that's really what I'm trying to get out there. It's just like, just try it. All right, if it doesn't work, doesn't work. But this will work. Hot compost will work. Put it in a pile, huge pile. Our piles are 6 to 8 feet tall, and then they'll just slowly break down over the year. After about a year, right, then we use them on all our beds. So all of our beds, actually, all right, all of our beds, we got that from the leaves and the leaves. Like, we composted it down, and I brought it up here with the tractor, and that's how we did it. So I'd highly suggest that. All right. So it gets to like 240 degrees, all right, which could, 240? Yeah, it could get hot, all right. It's called hot compost for a reason, so it'll steam. I don't think it gets to 240. I'm trying to think. I don't know. It gets hot though, and it'll steam on cold weather days, all right. So that's basic, all right. So and then what you do is just flip it every month or two. Flip your whole pile, and then do it again. In a year, you'll have a beautiful garden soil. All right. Number two, right, is our little contraption here. We got some free pallets from our local hardware store, and we have 3 bins. So I like the 3 bin system. I've tried the 2 bin system. I didn't really like that. So we have bin number 1, bin number 2, bin number 3. Now, bin number 1 has a little bit actually of our hot compost in there, so I transferred a little hot compost in there, and then in these bags, these brown bags, is actually our food scraps. Now we try to be a zero waste household. Having a baby, that is very difficult. But all of our food scraps go into there. Now, over time, they'll break down. I'll flip this every other week. And then after I feel that's broken down enough, I'll bring it to bin 2. Now, bin 2, if you look, there is an egg carton in there, and there's some baby formula box, which that baby formula box needs to come out. And go to bin 1. And then once bin 2 I feel like it's broken down enough, I'll finally bring it to bin number 3. And then after bin number 3 is broken down, finally I'll feel it with my hands, and I should have a really good soil to put around. Now, that won't fill my garden beds. That'll just go around each plant, because again, it's a different, it's a higher nutrient value for your soil. Get a better biodiversity, and it's good for all the plants. Okay, now things that you could put in, you might not want to though, is like onions and citrus. We do it just because we're zero waste, so we'll do it. Just know bugs don't love those. And then I won't put any sticks or bigger sticks within this, but I am trying things out this year, see what they can break down. And then weeds. All right, you really don't want to put weeds down in your garden compost area, because if you put weeds down in there and they're at seed, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to end up putting weed seeds in your garden, and it's like, I don't know, defeats the purpose, right? So get into composting. Bin 1 and 2 and 3, the setup is easy. I just found it on Pinterest or something like that. All right. The hardest one, and the only one that you need to check the pH, you got to check the acidity. Is it alkaline? Is it too wet? Is it whatever? Everything else is kind of like just dump it, flip it, dump it, flip it, dump it, flip it, dump it, flip it. Okay. Use a pitchfork to dump and flip too. It's much easier to get through. All right. Here's our vermicompost. So vermicompost. When I'm saying vermicompost, we're looking for castings. Now, worm castings are worm poop. They're freaking awesome, so nutritious for your garden and your plants, especially our fruit trees. Okay. So we put them around our apples, we put them around our berry bushes, we got our, our elderberry bushes and things like that. We put the worm castings around there. Now normally I just bought my worm castings in the past from Mr. Nice Guys over in Wolcott, but this year we're doing our own. Okay, so with these, again, worms have small mouths, so you want anything you're throwing in there to be small. So for example, like this avocado, yeah, they're not going to get through that. So where do you think this should go? Nice freaking answer, into the kitchen area. Okay, so this is kitchen scraps, but it should be like blended. So I have a Vitamix. I use a Vitamix to blend this stuff normally, but sometimes avocados find their way in, all right, or bananas find their way in and they're not even blended up, and that's user error. Okay. So in here, we just drop our worms right in here. We use red wigglers. They're much better. Okay, so here's one right here. I should be able to, and I have another one where I can go like this, and you're gonna see a ton of worms. You're not gonna see a lot of worms yet because I just started this one. Don't hate me, I just started this one. Okay, and they are hermaphrodites, so they breed like crazy. There's no male or female. They just need each other, and they will breed. And I saw some breeding earlier, but then I started moving the soil around, and I think I messed it up, but that's okay. Okay, in here, coffee grounds. In here, no citrus, never citrus. In here, no onions, never onions. They hate onions. Again, this is your bread and butter. This is worm castings. This is what you want. So they sell these things called pH meters, right? Taking your science class, and it'll show you like where you are. Are you too acidic or are you too alkaline? Also, you want to use a moisture meter. People do use moisture meters and temperature gauges on hot compost to see if all the bacteria is gone and their kitchen compost. We don't, because we're new. If we ever do start producing compost for people, we will have to do that kind of stuff. But for my vermicompost, 100%. It is so important to know the temperature of the soil. It could be 100 degrees out here and beautiful in there, and you want to make sure that, obviously, New England, if it goes like -3 degrees Fahrenheit, we got to make sure these go inside. So they are actually outside underneath an awning right now. They don't smell, which is great. So with kitchen composting and vermicomposting, not hot. Hot is really all our browns, right? So you have browns and greens, and this I explained in my little blog area. You have browns and greens. Browns are what you think of, paper, shredded, things like that. Then you have greens, which is our greens, our kitchen scraps. It's about 60-40. So a lot of people make the mistake, especially with vermicomposting, of putting way too much kitchen scraps in here and not layering it correctly. So make sure it's layered correctly and you have enough browns. If your stuff gets too wet, throw some peat moss in there. All right, peat moss will really help with that. It'll help soak up the moisture. New England right now is extremely wet. I've never seen it this wet in July. This seems to be like our new trend. Last year growing hemp, I was so worried about the drought we had in June, and then July came and it was like a monsoon, and we are dealing with, like, I don't know, after this weekend we'll probably be up to about 15 inches in freaking July. It's nuts. All right, so if you have any questions on vermicomposting, this is pretty cool. It's just an urban worm farm bag. All right, got this on Amazon, and basically the worms will do their job and it'll bring it back down after a few months. This is a long process. Worms are little, they work really hard, but they can't do it overnight, so it's a process. But I'm hoping next year, I'm hopefully making a video like this, and we have really good castings. All of this compost is beautiful, and I know our hot compost will be fire. All right, guys, thank you so much. Please go support us by getting some CBD products. Again, our CBD products are extremely pure, alcohol extracted, and high levels of CBD, very low THC. So those people who do not want the euphoric effects of the THC, CBD is definitely the way to go. I take a little drop before bed, and bam. All right, good night, Shay. All right, guys, have a great rest of your day. I don't know what day it is.